We're letting people in. Okay, guys, we're getting ready. Pankaj, can you hear me?
Yes, Thomas, you're absolutely audible and visible.
Pankaj, can you give me a hands up if you hear me?
Yes, Thomas, we can hear you very clear.
Okay, Pankaj,
Thomas, you're
can you hear me?
Okay, now. Thomas, you're audible, absolutely clear and visible as well.
There seems to be an echo still. Let me try to get rid of the echo.
Okay. I hope I don't have two devices.
Okay, so I'm muting this here. So I'm so sorry, guys. I'm trying to get this. We have a new system here, but Pankaj, I cannot see you.
Yeah, his video has gone out. There he is now.
Yes, now I should be visible, Thomas.
Okay, now you can see it. I can hear you, and you can hear me, right? Pankaj?
That's right.
Okay,
That's
perfect.
right.
So everyone else, sorry about that. I think we have it under control now. So let's get started. So we're going to go live now. Okay. I'm not sure why my video, I can see my video here, I cannot see it there, but that's fine. On the live part we can see, so that's the most important part. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jürgen Steinmetz, and I'm joining you from World Tourism Network here in Honolulu. And today I wanted to welcome everybody to a very important panel, what is put together by Pankaj Prathananga, and he wrote to me that I know him for 20 years, and that's correct, but I still have problem with your name. Sorry about that. And Pankaj is in Nepal. He's in Kathmandu, and he's an expert when it comes to accessible tourism. He has worked in this field for quite some time, and he will introduce himself with more details. He's also a member of the World Tourism Network, and he has been contributing also to eTurbo News many times over the years. So without further delay, and I wanted to also welcome everyone who's joining us live right now on eTurbo News, on our Facebook, on YouTube, and everywhere else in the world. And obviously, once this event is finished, you can see it again in archive on livestream.travel, and you will still see it on eTurbo News as you go. And Also, if you're not yet a member of the World Tourism Network, we have many events like this and we do a lot more than events. You should join us. Just go to WTN.travel, WTN.travel, and you see what we're all about. It's all relating out of our original discussion on how to rebuild tourism after COVID. We have 3 events this week, and at the end of this panel, I will fill you in on what else is going on, but you can always find it on worldtourismevents.com. So I gave you enough websites, enough things to think about. Welcome, Pankaj. And I'm sorry if I missed your big introduction I had prepared for, but we had some issues we were able to get resolved, so we're live now, and that's important.
Thank you, Jorgen, Thomas. Yes, namaste, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, wherever you're joining from. We welcome you to this panel, Tourism for All, Accessible Tourism, Inclusive Tourism, coinciding with World Tourism Day, though this is pre-event. As Thomas mentioned, we are joined by 4 panelists, and they have contribution, and they've been working towards this goal to make the world a lot more accessible, inclusive, and to say a goodness. Before I invite my panelists for today, you've already seen them in the flyer. Let me tell you why are we doing what we are doing. As we all know, and as per WHO, 15% of the world population, that is 1 billion, live with some form of disability. And accessibility for all in tourism facilities, products, and services should be the center focus, whether you are a destination, you are a tourism operating sector, or even a simple enthusiast who travel. To take this discussion forward, and we know that the world is putting a lot of effort in this regard, whether it's Indian subcontinent, Europe, US, throughout. So let me invite the panelists. They are Jeja Williams, who joins us from New Zealand. Jeja is an entrepreneur, a quadriplegic, who does all sorts of adventures. And he is setting a great example of tourism for all, based out in New Zealand. We'll hear more from him. We have Mani Raj Lamichhane. He is director at Nepal Tourism Board, has significant experience working in trek, tour, hotel, in other words, tourism operating sectors before he joined Nepal Tourism Board. He is also a faculty member in hospitality and management schools, and he holds masters in business, tourism management, and international diplomacy. We have third panelist in Jani Nair, who is executive director of SATH, S-A-T-H, Society for Accessible Travel and Hospitality, founded in the US back in 1995. She was a tour operator prior to her association with SATH, and then she became coordinator, and now she is executive director of SATH. We'll hear more from her, and she is presently based out in Brazil, which is almost 11:10 there in Brazil. And fourth panelist is Mr. Suman Timsina, who is based out in Virginia, Washington. He is executive director of International Development Institute, and his organization deals with capacity building, consulting, development consultancy, as well as he has been instrumental in bringing accessible tourism or tourism for all in the Himalaya. So we'll have more from all the panelists. So let me invite them to the room. Thomas, can we bring them to the spotlight?
Pankaj, since you know your panel, if you can see it on the right side, you can actually
Okay.
let
Fine.
me know the names, and then I can easily spotlight them, or you can do it yourself, no problem.
Okay, let me do in that case. Let me bring them to add to spotlight. Fine. So here comes Jani and then Jeza. We have Suman. Okay, so let's continue to give them a round of applause for joining them. And I'm looking for Money Z. Money Z, please raise your hand because okay. Well, it's is he okay? Okay, now I can see him. Okay, this is a Money Z. Yes. Well, he is again moved. Well, it's interesting. So in the meantime, let me do one thing without respecting everyone's time. And thank you everyone for joining for this interesting conversation to learn together, grow the knowledge while I invite Manizi to up to the floor. Let me invite Jeza, and I give 3 minutes to each panelist to tell us about your view, why businesses or destinations should promote inclusive tourism, or why is it the need of the hour in global tourism. Now, let me invite Jeza. You have 3 minutes. Please share your why with us.
Hello, everybody. Thanks, Punkus, for the introductions. I'm Jeza from New Zealand. I run the Making Tracks Foundation, and we are the inclusive tourism experts, or the benchmark of inclusive tourism in New Zealand. Right now, there's really important things going on in the back burner with the whole world looking on. Expedia have been putting their 50 cents in. National Geographic UK have been putting their 50 cents in. In New Zealand, we're also working with APEC. There's this happening with the World Tourism Organization. So the world is aware of what's going on. And now when the global pandemic decides to slow down, we will all be able to travel again. The biggest amount of travel that will happen in the future is called incentive traveling. What incentive traveling means is people will go to where they feel welcome. So in the past, everybody used to follow their friends, go with stories, go with people where they wanted to, because they knew it. Nobody's been traveling for the last 2 years, especially within the inclusive international market, especially in New Zealand, but domestic's quite large. I find it very simple here in New Zealand because of the lacking of clientele. A lot of operators are open to looking at a larger diversity through the doors. And this is what we call inclusive tourism, which is separate to accessible tourism. And at a later date, when we talk about inclusion versus accessibility, I'll explain that a little bit more when Making Tracks come too. But right now, with everything going slowly and we're rebooting the world, incentive tourism is key, with technology, with everybody paying attention and working together. That is why I personally believe that inclusion and inclusive tourism will be the biggest growth once the tourism industry starts opening again. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeza. From New Zealand, now let me take completely to the other part of the world, Jani, who joins us from Brazil. Jani, please share your why for inclusive tourism in the present context.
Thank you for everybody who's here, and thank you, Pankaj, for inviting me to be on this panel. Now, if you ask me why I got into this field, it was, I was a tour operator before, and I was tired of issuing tickets and then people haggling for the price and things like that. So I decided to do mostly tours, and I was looking for a niche market. So then I went to New York to look at some of the possibilities there. And I met a person called Alexander Wood. He uses a wheelchair, and he is such an amazing person. And he was telling me all his difficulty in traveling. So that got my attention and my curiosity. And he said I should meet Murray Vidokler, who has an organization. So I said, okay. So I called him and he said, I can give you 15 minutes. My whole afternoon is filled up. I said, okay, 15 minutes is fine for me. So I went there. But he is such an amazing person. He's the one who founded SAT, the Society for Accessible Travel and Hospitality. And we sat and started talking. He canceled all his appointments, and I was completely hooked into this field. And I started working on this. That's how I started working. And why am I asking everybody to look into this field? Because of the amount of money that is there. For example, I can give a whole lot of numbers. Like, for example, the purple pound, that is the estimated spending power of disabled households in UK. They came out with a number of 249 billion a year. When you put together the purchasing power of all the people who are disabled and their friends and their families. So that's a huge number. So now travel agents and the tour operators and the destinations, they all need clients. So what a business owner needs to know is what to do about it. How can you go about it? And not just how big the whole business is. We have to show them how they can make money. Unless they make money, they won't be interested to stay in this. So we can talk more about it and in the later stages. Okay.
Thank you, Jenny. So touching upon the economic side of the business, it is not only a right thing to do, it is also profitable things to do. Now let me move on to let me move on to Maniraz Lamichhane. As I introduced him, he is director of Nepal Tourism Board. Why Nepal? Now, normally people think it's a mountain country. People go for trekking and adventure, and it is only for the super fit or really ultra fit people. So there's something persons with disability can do. So why inclusive tourism in Nepal, Manizi? Please share your why in terms of destination.
Thank you, Pankaj, for the opportunity. As you have rightly said, that most of the people globally think that Nepal is for the adventure lovers, or people come to Nepal, or people visit Nepal for trekking, mountaineering, or other adventure activities. But as an NTO and personally, I think Nepal is much more than that. We have so many other facilities or other services that the customers of any type they can equally enjoy. And since in 2016, as I think you are also one of our partners, where UNWTO has mentioned where UNWTO has the World Tourism Day slogan as tourism for all. From that, I personally was involved in this accessible tourism. Before that, I had knew little about it, but after that, I'm more onto it. And as you know, we are very instrumental on conducting the Wounded Heroes Trek of Nepal, and that was one of the fundamental, or one of the instrumental on promoting Nepal as a destination for or as one of the prominent destination for accessible tourism as well. And before that, as you know, the world generation, the life expectancy is growing, and as being the former employee of Tiger Mountain, Tiger Tops, one of the premier lodges of Nepal, I remember that most of the clienteles that we conduct, they're senior citizens, and that resort or the property, they are well accompanied with the facilities that the senior citizens could enjoy at all. And also that, as you know, this accessible tourism phenomenon has been growing rapidly, and nowadays many people with some kind of disabilities, they are wanting to take holidays. And one of the studies, it showed that 88% of the people with disability, they take holidays each year. And we consider that accessibility is not only the human right, it is the business opportunities for destination, and companies embrace all visitors and enhance their revenues. And one of the recent research, like there was a program conducted by IFC a few weeks back, and during that launching meeting, it was said that one of the clientele with some like blind client who went on scaling the Mount Everest, he generated a job for 4 other people. So in terms of revenues and in terms of job creation, this is very instrumental, and Nepal is considering it as one of the prominent product, or we are trying to showcase our destination as the destination for all, and we are trying to promote it in many ways.
Thank you, Maniji. I'll come back to you with other burning questions and pertinent issues. In the meantime, let me move on to Suman Raj Timsina, who joins us from Virginia. And as Maniji mentioned, this was indeed a brainchild of IDI to bring these wounded heroes, and that got a place in 2016's World Tourism Day event, whereby we brought 5 amputees and went up to 3,200 meters, Poon Hill, and created a history. Now, please share your why on inclusive tourism, Mr. Timsina.
Please unmute.
Sorry. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for all the audience here and my fellow panelists. So I am probably the odd man out in this crowd. I'm neither a tour operator nor a rigorous traveler. But I came in touch with Pankaj several years ago, about a little over 6 years, in 2015 in Kathmandu, when whole Nepal was going through blockade and lockdown. You couldn't travel, you couldn't leave the hotel and go anywhere because there was no taxi, no gasoline, nothing was available, no restaurants were open. And so Pankaj came to meet me in my hotel, and then I had one of my friends who was amputee. And that's where we said how decent idea it will be if he could travel to Nepal, and what was restricting him? We had no idea. And without knowing, we put together an organization and we went with accessible tourism, and that was the wounded hero Maniji. And not just that, I will just get into that in a minute, Pankaj, but I just want to really admire Nepal Tourism Board. I had an opportunity to work with them in the last 6 years, and we continue to work. In 2018, it was the first accessible trekking trail in South Asia that was inaugurated in Nepal near Pokhara called Khasi. Pilot project was little less than 3 kilometers long, I believe. And then we had in that accessible tourism trail, that day Nepal Tourism Board was bold enough, and they announced March 31st to be observed as an accessible tourism day for Nepal. So I am just bringing it here from Maniji for a reminder. So as soon as the tourism opens up, March 31st should be a big date in your calendar for Nepal Tourism Board. And then the other part is why accessible tourism? So my simple theory was, I told you, neither I'm a traveler nor I'm a tour operator. I'm a traveler, but not a rigorous traveler like many of you are. I think everyone has right to go and travel. Everyone has the right to go and see the places, whatever they can. Okay, so that's where the tour operators, the hotels, and everything that it needs in this tourism business, they need to open up. They need to think, what can I do? That's a huge population. We're talking about 13%, I think 13%, whatever number the Pankaj said, close to that is the right number for the whole world. Even if out of 13%, I know, Jiza, you were in Nepal and I spoke to you on the phone through Pankaj. In that 13%, there was a small, even if the 10%, even if 5%, even if 2% travels, that's a huge economy we're talking about. And we're talking about how to make it more sustainable. So hotels need to step up, tour operators need to step up, people who are creating products, they need to think about it. People who are creating a destination, they have to think about how I can make my destination more accessible. Airlines, transportation, all kinds of transportation. And people who are urban developers, they need to think about why it is very, very important to have a sidewalk. I'll just give you an example. I had an MPT friends who came with me in 2016. We went to Patan, very famous touristic spot in Kathmandu. They had a very hard time crossing the street. They were scared. And and they were all celebrity people who had climbed mountains in different parts of the world, who were rigorous bikers and everything, but they were scared crossing that street in Patan. And we had to really stop few of us, the entire traffic, so that they feel comfortable crossing the street. So that's where the urban planner, developer, they really need to think about what can we do? What can I do to attract these people, this population, which we don't think about often, and that is how that is good for economy, how that is good thing to do for the society, and how to make it more sustainable. So I will just leave it here, and I will wait for the questions if there is any.
Thank you, Suman, for highlighting your why and why IDEA has also got into accessible tourism or inclusive tourism. Now let me go to Jeza. I met Jeza in Destination for World. We were the panelists in Brussels, this World Accessible Tourism Conference. That was 2018, and we did see existential crisis, probably the lowest point in tourism industry in last 1.5 years. But the good news, let me also break that news out, that Nepal has also opened for fully vaccinated, no more quarantine. So thank you, Nepal Tourism Board and all the associations, people in this room who took this initiative to put pressure on the government, and this is the right thing to do. So now, looking at the business side, reopening tourism for traveler with disability. At the moment, without imposing unnecessary obstacles, because this is going to be not an easy thing, even for a person without disability. So how do you see the businesses? What are the do's and don't do's, right? That you running Making Tracks, tell us something about Making Tracks, which you have turned from for-profit to now not-for-profit organization, and what your tips to the business operators being very grounded while providing the services. Over to you, Jeza.
Can people see my screen? Okay, so
yes, I can see it.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, I know Pankaj quite well. Actually, I've been to Nepal and we did an incredible tour, and I've also assisted with the Tourism Tourist Board to look at the way that they do inclusive tourism and accessible tourism. Now, I've been Making Tracks has been running for a decade. Prior to that, I was an international guide and worked all over the world. So personally, I am a C5 tetraplegic. I run Making Tracks. It's inclusive tourism, but you'll be quite surprised from the sort of activities that Making Tracks provides. My own personal story goes way back, but I also am a private paragliding pilot and do a lot of stuff personally just to prove a point. I started down the inclusive tourism avenue after I had a life-changing accident, and now we're opening up inclusive tourism all through New Zealand. So the way that Making Tracks does it, and the way that I have found is the most simple, practical, and easy, is totally inclusive tourism, not necessarily accessible tourism. And this is quite a big difference when it comes to influencing companies, etc., to start with their business. So I'm just going to fire through a very fast little presentation. A few people might have seen a bit of what I'm doing here. I've covered it a few times, but this is where I believe accessible and inclusive tourism comes from. So our late Dr. Scott Rains, who was a mutual friend of mine and Punkus, and I'm sure a lot of other people, he was an inspiration to me, and he came up with the global movement, but looking at people as they are. Diversity is the only thing that all humans have in common. And trust me, I've been in the tourism industry since I've been knee-high to a grasshopper. Somebody that's got a disability is a lot stronger, healthier, and more open to doing activities than, say, your overweight tourist from a big city that doesn't speak the local language and has never been in an outdoor environment in their life. So Making Tracks is more about the actual experience. And as I'll say in a second, the difference between accessible and inclusive, Nepal is a fantastic way to explain this. Now, for me, inclusive tourism is that, and that only, okay? It's education. It's education to the industry. That is the number one, because nobody knows what an individual can do unless I've done it. You know, nobody knows an ability. It's like the story AJ Hackett, yeah? Nobody knew you could jump off a bridge until AJ Hackett jumped off a bridge. And then everybody wanted to jump off a bridge. So it's about educating the possibilities. The next thing's information. Everybody needs information prior to. Then they can make up their own mind whether or not they want to do an activity. That could be anything from somebody saying, yes, my hotel's accessible. And it's like, I've been to Nepal and I've been in lots of hotels they say accessible and they're not accessible. Things like photos, information prior to, understanding of there's bathrooms in the vicinity, where are they? If there's something that you can adapt. That's the information. So somebody in the privacy of their own home can make a decision and book their product. The next thing is cooperation, and that's dealing with the person and the operator. That needs somebody like Making Tracks as an interim to help them until they get it flowing. The next one's adaption, but we only use that very simple, very easy, and very cleverly. And that just takes a lot of experience. Making Tracks makes a lot of harnesses. That opens up the industry for adventure-based activities. There's a few that we also gave to Nepal. We have rafting harness, paragliding harness, etc., that Making Tracks donated to Four Seasons so they can get people out there and rocking. Now, promotion is the other key, and it's promotion. This is Tourism Board. Don't promote inclusive or accessible travel by itself. Market it mainstream, market it through the Tourism Board, market it with other people. There's Change Destination by the World Travel Organization, and there was also the South Africa with the vision impaired, which was very fantastic. The next thing I'm just firing through really fast, accessibility is about the actual infrastructure. And that there's really important to realize. So not everywhere will be accessible, trust me. In fact, far from it. Accessible comes from, it takes time, planning and structure. It needs to be correct, it needs to be done properly. One little hiccup and it all goes horse up. So it's important to understand the difference about accessible and inclusive. So the next thing is very much about inclusion. So inclusive is about the actual event. It's an actual room, at the actual movement, and it's information, education, cooperation. It's about the experience. It's simple, cost effective. It's advanced customer care. That's all it is. Trust me, I've been to Nepal. I consider Nepal more inclusive than Christchurch, New Zealand. Why? Because people are way more willing to help. In Christchurch, if I was going to get a taxi, I would need to pay extra. It would take me a lot longer, etc., etc. In Nepal, boom, straight in. The taxi driver will help me. It's amazing. It's not going to be accessible. It'll never be accessible. We can make accessible infrastructure in places, but it is about inclusive travel, which is information. If you want an adventure holiday, then you go to an adventurous place. If you want to have an accessible holiday, go to Singapore. I've been there. It's the most accessible place on the planet. So inclusion compared to accessibility. And going forward from there, this is a basic of it, you know. Because every ability is different and the environment's different, accessibility helps a few. Inclusion helps everybody. The next thing I want to explain is adaptions. Very, very, very simple. We make these in New Zealand and it's easy. All these activities, real simple, real easy. But what Pankaj asked and what we're talking about asking how we can develop the accessible market is this. So I personally run Making Tracks. I work with all the adventure operators in New Zealand. And what that does is it provides all the information and I help. Okay, so this is how inclusive tourism is a gateway to accessible tourism, because what you have to do is you have to have initiative to start. So what we've been doing here is I build relationships with the operators. They know that I do it very simple, safe, and awesome. They realize their product is a superior service. If one outfit can provide an activity for somebody with a disability, or that maybe is a little bit older, or maybe has other things affecting, they are a superior company, they're a superior product, they're a superior outfit. So that's really important for the company.
Thank you, Jeza. Now let me thank you, Jeza, for very comprehensive and very elaborate description how to go about business. This is all about business, and at the end, if it is sustainable, then only we can grow that. So
exactly.
Thank you. I'll come back to you, Jeza. Now let me move forward to Gianni, who again from New Zealand to Brazil. So tell us about SAT. Though it sounds very much company in Hindi or in Nepali or in Sanskrit, it's SAT, but it is acronym of. Okay, so please tell us what are the key barriers in your experience that the business operators in accessible tourism or inclusive tourism come across, have to overcome and embrace it. Will you please share your North American experience here?
First of all, let me introduce SAT to all of you. SAT, S-A-T-H, came from the name Society for Advancement of Travel for the Handicapped. And then handicap was not the correct word, not the politically correct word. So we had to keep the acronym and then change it to a Society for Accessible Travel and Hospitality. And this was founded in 1976, even before ADA. And 1976. And the first 12, 13, 14 years was spent with advocacy and asking for regulations and all that. So OSAT was part of, was involved in writing together with a whole lot of other organizations, writing the ADA, the American Disabilities Act, and also the Air Carrier Access Act. And also in 1991, and WTO, the World Tourism Organization, accepted a code of conduct, which was written by SAT as a normal thing to do. And so we do not put together the tours. We train the travel industry, the hotels, hoteliers, the restaurateurs, and the travel agents and tour operators, how to meet the needs. The legislation and ADA is kind of a milestone around the neck of the accessible tourism segment, because they really ask you to do this, do that. Like Jesa said, it's very expensive and lots of people are skeptical in doing it. And they have taken the customer out of the picture. So what you need is the customer to be treated as a customer like anybody else. Because the basic theory is that the disability is not due to an individual characteristic of a person, but the result of existing restrictive factors in the environment. Every person that I have come across who have a disability say that the environment makes me disabled, not the fact that I use a wheelchair or I can't see or I can't hear. So, which all the lack of function in some way or the other is multiplied by the lack of knowledge and the lack of facilities is a university in Poland and Russia. They did a study with the students of the tourism, and the university was the Mickiewicz University in Poland and the Irkutsk University in Russia. They took a sample of 216 people, and the conclusions showed that the attitude of openness and the positive approach of the future employees in tourism services sector to the needs of tourists with disabilities currently exists. But at the same time, there is a due to the lack of previous experience resulting in insufficient knowledge on the aspect of conditioning, they are scared to deal with people with disabilities. They don't know how to approach them, how to handle them. Oh, will I annoy them? Will I upset them? Can I say this? For example, I have a personal experience. During our conference, there was a person who is blind. So I walked up to him and said, did you see so-and-so around here? So the person who was next to me said, she's blind. I said, so what? I'm asking, the see does not mean that he has to see with his eyes. He knows if the person was around or not. So that's a problem. That's, if you ask a person, did you see that person? It means, have you been around him? And he does not object to it or take objection to my using the word. So you treat the people with disabilities with the same way as you would treat anybody else, because they are valuable clients. They are more valuable. For example, if a friend of mine who does not have a disability is not treated well, I'm not going to go one step forward and say that company is not going to get my money. They won't get $1 from me. But if they do not take care of my friend who has a disability, definitely they've lost my business. That is.
Thank you, Zani.
Yes.
I can totally relate to it. And as you've said, disability is in the environment that resonates. The common friend of ours, my mentor, Dr. Scott Rains, when I met him, he was driving, he came out of his car all by himself, and he was very much mobile, professional. But when he came to Nepal, we had to carry him. So that day I realized the disability was not in him, but in the environment or infrastructure. So thank you for pointing that out. Now let me move on to Mani Lamichhane, who represents the Destination Management Company organization, DMO, in Nepal. It is known as Nepal Tourism Board. So that case study has been very profound, because many people think Nepal is a difficult terrain. And as Jeza said, Kathmandu, or for that Nepal, he finds the most inclusive, not because of infrastructure, but people have dropped the attitudinal barriers. You know, the barriers are not only in the physical facility, but the people are very friendly, hospitable, they want to support, help. So dropping attitudinal barriers. So please tell us, and here I would like to add on, IFC, International Monetary Corporation, just released one research report or study report, a survey on accessibility for persons with disability in Nepal's hotel. So that has also given some boost that Nepal is working towards that direction, making the hotels more accessible. And we are also joined by a few hoteliers, few hospitality school founders. So in your opinion, tell us what Nepal is doing to turn this as a business opportunity when it is opening up. Are we building back better? Over to you, Maniji.
Thank you, Pankaj. The discussion is really going in good direction, and it seems to be very fruitful for the DMOs like us. As I have mentioned you that from 2016 onward, though, like there might be some people who are organizing conducting the accessible treks or tours, but officially or it has came onto the limelight after 2016. So what the government of Nepal has done is that in 2019 December, we have an amended standards issued for hotel and resorts, which says that all star hotels and resorts should have disabled friendly toilets, one dedicated room for disabled people, and mandatory ramps for wheelchairs in the lobby and outside the hotel premises. This is what the government has taken initiation on promoting this accessible tourism, and we are working on it. And going back to what Jeza has shown, Jeza has shown on his presentation the stages of this inclusive tourism, where he has started with education, information, cooperation, adaptation, and promotion. I think we are still in the stage of education. We have to educate more to the industry. And as you have just referred to the IFC survey, which was released a few weeks back, and out of 1995 hotel or resorts who participated on that survey, 90% of them are aware of this inclusive tourism, but most of them, they don't have the facilities that is required for conduction of the accessible tourism in their part. So I think we are in dire need of educating to the industry, not only for the hoteliers, but for the entire industry, because we are not I think we have not been able to educate them about the importance and the money or the revenue that is generated from this thing. So that is what I feel is needed in our part. So we will start looking and working on it, and after that maybe we can educate to our I mean, like, after that we can inform to the clients that okay, now like some of the properties or most of the properties that in Nepal are more disabled friendly, or like we are into the accessible tourism thing. And after that, as he mentioned about cooperation between industry and client, that we can do. So basically what I'm trying to say is that we have like there's huge potential on this accessible tourism, and we have not been able to tap the real benefit out of it. So we should be starting we should start working on it. And as you have mentioned that we are integral part on hosting that international conference on accessible adventure. That has created some awareness among the tour operators as well as the other stakeholders, but still long way to go. Pankaj, I think there is still more to go for us in order to promote this in our destination.
Thank you. Thank you much. Glad Nepal has taken that very first step, or baby step as we call. It is heading towards the right direction. So I'll come back, and those who have raised hand, we will open the Q&A in next 5 minutes. We'll be very much mindful of the time allocated given. So some of you have joined very late, and in some parts it is time to go to work. So we were mindful. So now let me move to Mr. Suman, who represents International Development Institute and works with capacity building and development consultancy as well with various organizations. And he was recently involved for a GIZ research of impact of COVID on the local economy that is carried out in 6 countries. Would you like to connect the dots between that study findings or the study experience with the accessible tourism, though that is not within the scope of your study, Mr. Suman?
So, Pankaj, thanks for asking that. I'll just mention that briefly, and I'll move on to the core of the discussion for today. So the study was completed recently, and it's not, the whole project is not done yet. And it was the impact of COVID-19 on various things. And one of the things we're looking at is tourism, and we included 6 countries. And mainly we are looking at very specific. Tourism has too many segments. So what we are looking at is how the local government is working with private sector, or private sector is working with local government to revive tourism economy. So for example, there is no tourism right now. So this is the opportunity for local government to work on maybe infrastructure, maybe drinking water, or maybe waste management, maybe building hotel, maybe making road more accessible, maybe working with transportation. Maybe some places have revived the entire fleet of cars, make it more environment friendly. And those are the things that we looked into what they are doing. And some government has worked with private sector, established some fund to pay 50%, 60% of the people who don't have a job right now, basically, and how they can put food on their plate. So that is still going on, but we have finished the first phase of the project, and Pankaj was part of that project for Nepal and worked with us. And we looked into Nepal, Uganda, Botswana, Romania, and Sierra Leone, and Cape Verde. So anyway, so moving forward to this, coming back to the core topic of today's discussion is on accessibility. And I think there's not much for me to add what all 3 of you said very rightly. One of the things I just want to bring it here, sometime I told you very beginning, I'm outsider. Neither I'm a accessibility expert, not tourism expert. But what I saw with my group is one of the big things, and I'm sure you all agree with this, is about dignity. Yeah. So I'm going to talk about something which is very different. So it's all about dignity. When we go somewhere, we do something, we travel somewhere, not travel somewhere, people come back and you ask them how that place is. The entire review is based on whether I was treated with dignity or not treated with dignity. Yeah. Entire thing. So that one thing is a separator. So I may come back from Brazil and I may say that, hey, I was treated with dignity. So hey, I'll tell everyone, no, that's not the place to visit. Okay. Or may say something different about New Zealand, something different about Nepal, something different about America. So dignity is lots of things. So now you have to see dignity from different perspective. I got to see by learning what accessibility or what tourism for all or whatever slogan we put around it is. I saw a fellow tourist who was not able to take those stairs and climb up the ladder to go to the airport, or couldn't go to the toilet and he was on diaper or his pants was wet because the toilets at the airport or the hotel were not welcoming enough for that person, or couldn't go and get his paid seat in the plane because someone has to lift him up and put in the seat, and he doesn't want to be lifted. He has other things that he's on the chair or on some other things that he wants to go by himself. So I think we really need to see this issue from dignity perspective. Every human being deserves a dignity. So when you look at from dignity perspective, no matter what business you are in, you are a tourism board member, you are a traveler, you are a hotel owner, restaurant owner, airport administrator, big decision maker, or a small tour guide, think every single tourist, because the tourism, how I can treat that person with dignity so that when they leave, they take that impression from me. And when you look, if you look from that perspective, then
Thank
you will
you.
talk
Thank
about
you.
accessibility.
Okay.
So Pankaj, I'm going to end it right here for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing very thoughtful take. As an you can prescribe better things. Of course, everyone wants to be treated with dignity, whether you are a person with disability or you're a person without disability. Everyone wants to be acknowledged for the trip that you make to that very place. And here I would like to add that quote, as the saying goes, people come to Nepal for its mountains, but they keep coming back for its people. So eventually it's the people, the component that makes or breaks the experience of a traveler in that very destination. I think that goes across the board in any segment of tourism. So now I can see quite a few hands going up in the air, and keeping the time also into consideration, I would like to invite the participants who have questions, and I've taken 3 names who raised hand. One was Roshan Jung Thapa, and then Gauri Ji, and then Dhana Raj Adhikari. So let me start with Roshan, and we will take this for another 10 minutes. So Roshan Ji, will you please unmute and ask your question, or you can also write your chat, and please do mention who do you want or who in the panel you want him or her to answer back your question. Over to you, Roshan. Okay, I believe he is. So I can see the next hand going up is Dhanaraj Adhikari. Will you please unmute and
good
ask
morning.
your question, Dhanaji?
Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. My questions for the Manisha, what is the present condition of accessible tourism in Nepal, and what the NTB is planning to do for accessible tourism in Nepal? Thank you, sir.
Okay, shall I answer, Pankaj? So, as per the recent survey, which was just launched a few days back, it is said that around 2,000 people, 2,000 tourists with disabilities visit Nepal every year. But this is during the good time. But now, but not now. But during good time, we have at least 2,000 tourists with disabilities. They used to visit Nepal, and if we could improve the facilities and conditions, then we expect that the number could easily go up to 10,000. And we are also working with the National Federation of Disabled Nepal. We are working with them, and so the data is provided. That data has been provided to us by them. So this is the number. And as Pankaj has also mentioned that in 2018 we have constructed an accessible trail in Kaski that is around 1.24 kilometer in length and about 6 feet width, which runs around an altitude of 1,535 to 1,568 meters. So that is those are the initiation that has been done by NTP, and and from the government, as I have mentioned, that government has passed government has amended the standards for hotel and resorts, which requires that each hotel should have at least one disabled friendly room and all. So these are the initiatives being taken, and
Thank you, Maniji. I hope this will also inspire and motivate other destinations, be it a national destination or regional destinations. Now, let me invite Gauriji. I saw your hand up in the chat log. Gauriji, are you still around and able to unmute, speak? Okay, I think. Okay, that's so. I encourage the participants, if you have any questions, why don't you write down in the chat log so it's easier. So even okay, we have Niladri Pariyal. Niladri, please go ahead, unmute and speak. He is an educator, avid traveler, and also he's a columnist.
Thank you, Pankaj, for the invite and the opportunity to speak. Hello, everybody. I'm not currently in a position to start my video, so please do forgive me for the same. What I wanted to ask from an educator's perspective is, I truly believe that the conversations that you're having today are geared towards people who have already framed their mindsets and are working professionals in the industry. And I'm curious to know, as a school educator myself, if we are to bring forth and educate the boys and the girls, the young men and women that are studying in the schools and institutes of higher education, not particularly interested in the accessible tourism or the tourism industry even, to give rise to, as Jani said, to an environment, to an enabling environment. I would like to ask the panel, what do you think could be done in schools in Nepal and schools in Brazil or New Zealand or the United States, wherever they are, to raise a just society? And I truly believe, I'm speaking this from a perspective of a teacher who delivers content and not necessarily educating people for life. You know, the fallacy is here that we're not really we're just teaching content. So I believe that sector experts can really lend a huge hand to schools all around the world. So as professionals in the industry, what do you think could be done at the school level to educate the next generation of tourism entrepreneurs or even sensible citizens? And this question is open to all.
Pankaj, can I just add one sentence to him? I think it's a very valuable question. And I know some people who are listening to it. So I just want to say this, I think this is something we have made a big progress. I'm very familiar with the ADA Act in US. Since then, we have made a big progress around the world. But I think this is something every tourism school, every employer in the employer orientation, everything has to start from the beginning. You cannot, it's going to be too late if you teach them after 10 years. I think this is something we really, really need to adopt. What is accessibility and what is inclusiveness is. So inclusiveness has to go beyond what we are teaching. So school has to adopt in curriculum. Tourism, hospitality school has to adopt. Employer has to adopt in every single employee orientation. I think we need to measure the employer's performance by how they respond to the accessibility. I worked in my previous life, I worked in a different industry, and we were measured by how we perform in diversity and inclusion. And there are lots of companies do it. And I think this is something very, very important, and that will create a new culture. And I think we have to create that culture, and I think that's what I will leave.
Thank you, Suman, for highlighting. And I can see related to this, there is one hand raised by Sandeepa, who is also an educator, and she runs a hospitality and tourism school in Nepal. Over to you, Sandeepa, please.
Before that, can I just touch on that basis of educating in schools? So this, from my perspective, I do a lot of work in schools. I do a lot of work in universities. I do a lot of work in tourism industry. I do a lot of work with outdoor pursuit centres, in Zoya, New Zealand Outdoor Associations, et cetera, et cetera. It's about getting in at ground roots. It's about teaching people inclusion at that ground rate. The power of adventure and travel is quite huge. In New Zealand, there's something like 70% of people with disabilities is unemployed. Also, 48% have mental health issues. There's so many different prevailing facts. And getting in at that ground level and educating at that ground level that everybody has a different diversity. And if we take people into the outdoors, or we take people into a challenging environment, which is tourism, then what that does, it actually makes inclusion, and it also brings integration within the whole system. For years, we've been creating victims through media because it's way easier to sell a story when somebody's bound to a wheelchair, suffering from a disability, all these sort of crazy things. I'm not suffering, I'm not bound, and I go everywhere, and I'm pretty smart, and I'm pretty, you know, I'm as able as the next person, although I obviously have a few disabilities, but trust me, so does everybody. So it's about
Thank
getting
you.
in
Thank you,
at that
Jeza.
point in time.
Yeah, thank you,
Thanks,
Jeza,
Pankaj.
and I
I
can
talk too
vouch for
much,
that.
and Pankaj
You
keeps
are
cutting me off.
unstoppable, Jeza, and you do all this paragliding. So, Jani, before I come to you, let me pass this virtual floor to Sandeepa,
Two
and
sentences.
then I will come to you, Jani. Yes, Sandeepa,
Thank
please.
you. Thank you, Pankaj, for this. My question is to Mr. Jeza Williams. He rightly said in terms of education, I run a hospitality school, and I too also have an invisible disability. So I want my students to learn empathy, not sympathy for the disabled. You know, so I just looking for some avenues, some courses which we can incorporate in our hospitality schools all over Nepal, something where students should feel not sympathetic but empathetic, and something they should be aware of. So is there any resources I can go on and look for? So thank you so much.
Thank you for your question. Firstly, you're most welcome to contact me afterwards, and Pankaj will put up my email contact, I'm sure. Now, I also put it into the sidebar in the chat bar. But the important thing is, yes, you can. The 90% of the issue problem is people are unaware, people are uncomfortable when they're around somebody that they don't know. It's got nothing to do with being able to make people more aware. It's taking away that feeling of, oh my God, you know.
Thank you, Jeza. Now, I think you are on mute. I don't know how. Okay, he seems to have some issue. Jeza, you are on mute. So now,
Actually, I apologize.
You,
I put you on mute by mistake. I was trying to stop some background noise. Sorry, Jeza, go ahead.
Right.
No problem.
So I think yeah, thank you, Jeza. Now I'll pass it on to Jani, since Jani was trying to speak, and then we'll wrap up and hand over this floor back to Thomas Jurgen. Yes.
No, he asked what should be done. The first thing is, do not segregate the children who have disabilities from children who do not have disabilities. The segregation really does not do any good to anybody. When children grow up and they study together and they interact with other children who have disabilities, they learn empathy very easily. It is inculcated into them. It is built into them without any force. So no segregation, no separate schools, mainstream children with disabilities, and they would. And another thing, to bring people, why do they all want to be doctors and engineers? They think they'll make a lot of money. Tourism can also make a lot of money because of accessible tourism. There is a lot of money which is being left at the table. So you just have to be knowledgeable and wanting to work in this field, and you can make a lot of money. And once you show them the economic factor, people will come in.
So thank you, Jani. Now, thank you, Jeza, thank you, Mani, thank you, Suman, and thank you all the participants who did demonstrate interest, enthusiasm, and energy. I know a few friends who are in the participant, they have not asked question. Like, let me acknowledge Julie Kent from Australia, who traveled, and her travel on wheelchair was first time out of Australia. She came to Nepal, went to Tibet, did all sorts of adventures. So this is also an opportunity to enable people, right? As Sandeepa mentioned, it is not sympathy, but it is empathy that we need to demonstrate. So the takeaway from today's discussion, of course, we are not changing the entire course of development of accessible tourism, but definitely we're heading forward and we are bouncing forward as the moral of, or the spirit of tourism entrepreneurs, people in tourism industry has all-time low, but perhaps this can work as a springboard. And as Jani said, there is opportunity, there are untapped potentials. So we need to look into it and explore this. So it could be through education, starting right from school or hospitality management schools, and not just building the infrastructure, but also to teach, train, and educate people in terms of inclusion, which is beyond, which is visible, right? So truly inclusive society we can build, and which can be sustainable, profitable, and enjoyable as well. On that note, once again, I thank everyone for your participation and contribution. On that note, I wish everyone a very happy World Tourism Day, which is due next week on 27th. And I hand over floor to Thomas, who is the founder and the doer of World Tourism Network. Over to you, Thomas.
Yes, and thank you
Pankaj, for the opportunity.
Thank you, everybody. This was a fascinating session, and my apology, my camera, I cannot make it to work. I can make it work on my other computer, and I was worried about signing out of this computer and into another one and then cut everyone off. So my apology if you cannot see me. But I wanted to say, really, Pankaj, this was an excellent session, like all of your sessions. And Pankaj, for those that don't know this, is running our accessible tourism interest group for the World Tourism Network. So we invite everybody to be part of it. And earlier, Pankaj and I, we discussed to have a session once a month. So we're not going to forget about this subject. We're going to start an ongoing discussion, and Pankaj will be in charge of it. And it's going to be global. It's not only about Nepal, but I know Nepal has been an example in the world when it comes to accessible tourism. I still remember after the earthquake, there was no other country where Nepal really stepped up to the plate to show that travel is possible for people with disabilities. And I wanted to also acknowledge Mani. I haven't met you now personally, but I'm very pleased that you joined us. And Nepal Tourism Board is a good friend. Deepak, who had your position before, is also a good friend. He is also part of the World Tourism Network. And we're looking forward to hopefully work with Nepal Tourism Board as we go, like we did in the past, and continue our excellent cooperation. And also, this group was founded with the help and the assistance and the cooperation of the Nepal Tourism Board. Some of you don't know this. At the ITB trade show in Berlin, my company eTurboNews, we organized an event for the Nepal Tourism Board. Unfortunately, the event never took place. We had a record amount of people signing up, so it was really sad that the event didn't take place, and of course ITB didn't take place. But our discussion took place in rebuilding travel and tourism. And part of this first discussion, that's how we started, was a cooperation with the Nepal Tourism Board, the African Tourism Board, and PATA, the Pacific Asia Travel Association. And that's how this group eventually started, because after 1 year discussing rebuilding.travel, the World Tourism Network emerged out of this. And within our organization, I also wanted to recognize two people. One is Diana McIntyre. Diana is joining us from Jamaica. It's past midnight. I believe it's 15 minutes past midnight. And since everyone knows who's on her Facebook, that it was Diana's 70th birthday just a few days ago. And I wanted to also know officially, she invited me to party with her on Zoom. And for some reason, I got her message too late, too many emails, so I missed it. And I would have attended if I if I knew about it. But Diana is running our community tourism interest group. And since she has been now on this event in the middle of the night in Jamaica, and Jamaica is such an important spot for travel and tourism, I want to give you, if that's okay, just 2 or 3 minutes to also say community tourism, accessible tourism. What's the connection? Can you unmute yourself, Diana?
That community tourism is what? Festival tourism?
No. Accessible tourism and what we discussed tonight, and community tourism. Do you see a connection there?
Yes, well, community tourism is a community development. That's how we have approached it over the years. 45 years, and we have identified over 45 niche markets, and we've done very well with it. People are not confined to just staying in a hotel. They're enjoying the community. We train the community in entrepreneurship, and they are now able to earn money within the community because the guests who come, they want to buy things from them, their craft or whatever it may be. So the whole focus is on developing many niche markets. And we have even Pick-up Project while on vacation and Adopt a Village while on vacation. We got 9 groups with Pick-up Project. And we had groups coming for like 17 years in a row. And the study tours, people who want to understand our culture or music, whatever we have. And it's great to see the interest that people have in enjoying the country, not just going in a hotel. And it's getting more and more that way because people are bored just being by the beach and so on. So our logo here that we have at the back of me here is where the beaches end, the country life begins. And that's what we promote, the country lifestyle. People can even go to the urban communities and enjoy that too. So any of you want to experience it, we can even do a virtual tour one day if you can't come, if you can't fly. But one of the plans we have is to have it with the diaspora overseas. We have a lot of Jamaicans overseas who want to help the country and their communities. So what we have now set up is a community tourism fund called ComFund, and it's registered in the United States. And we're going to just finalize it with a bank, and then we have it ready to be included in every tour and every vacation, and that will be available, the interest for soft loans and for grant funding. So we're going to be very independent. We're not depending on government or anybody. We're going to go straight ahead and do what we have to do with the rebuilding process of tourism. Thank you for the opportunity to share that.
No, thank you, Diana. And I also just wanted to mention, and if you wanted to say just a few words, my fellow German in Malaysia, Rudolf Hamran. Rudolf is running our chapter, or we call it now interest group for Malaysia. He's also running our LinkedIn group, what has been on rebuilding travel, what has been quite successful. Rudolf, welcome, and I'm glad you've been with us the whole time.
Oh, good to know.
You need to unmute yourself, please.
Okay.
There we go.
Thank you very much, Jürgen, and welcome everybody. It was a very, very good session. Thanks for the organizers. It's a very important topic. We here in Malaysia, we just started to open tourism actually with Langkawi. It's the first island, and it's a kind of a travel bubble. And they still have many things to think about, how to go about. And I think they are not yet thinking about inclusive tourism. So to expedite it, and it's very good. I have a few of our members here, like Jane Rai. She is one of the first tour guides who is doing virtual city tours in a format that is normally only known from 3D tours, from virtual tours in hotels, and she's doing that for city tours. She is here. And then we have also Shaharudin. He is the chairman of the Malaysia Hotel Budget Association. So we are quite active here in Malaysia, and it's good to see what is going on in global scene. Thank you very much for recognizing us, and please everybody join our LinkedIn group and see what is happening globally. Give some ideas, post some of the that are coming from other countries, so that everybody is very well informed and the opening can be more smooth.
Yeah, and you find a link to the LinkedIn group, because it's our official group also for the World Tourism Network, on our website. And if you don't know it, just send us an email or fill out the contact form. We'll be happy to give you the link. And last, not least, I see so many people here. Just hello also to Stephen in New York. It's 1 in the morning in New York, 1:20 in the morning. And Stephen has been with us from the very beginning, attended hundreds of our events. I'm really happy to see you again, and everyone else who has been joining us and who's online right now on eTurbo News watching. Exciting news also for all of us. We just launched last week our 24/7 news channel on eTurbo News. It's on all our websites. It's on eTurbo News right now, but it's going to be on all our websites, including also the WTN live stream, aviation. But right now on eTurbo News, you can get a taste of it. Go to any page. We're live now as we speak, and it's 24 hours. That means not everything you see is live, but everything is pretty much brand new, within a day or two old, and repeated. Like this event, you will probably see randomly for the next few days, and then of course it will be in archive and on our YouTube channel, or also on live stream. So this is really exciting. We're also coming in with breaking news items as they happen, so we don't know always in advance what is happening, but you can. If you don't want to read us, you don't want to listen to us, because all our articles are also in audio, you can now watch us too. So we're very excited about this. And nevertheless, we have another event coming up on Sunday for World Tourism Network, and this is to recognize our heroes like Rudolf and like Diana. So we have a few heroes actually here, and I hope you will attend us. And it's all going to be about World Tourism Day and the recognition for our heroes. So that is on Sunday, and you find it on worldtourismevents.com, and you can easily sign up. And a day later, we're going to have our sustainable tourism event with Professor Jeffrey Lipman, and we'll be announcing a partnership to bring the ICTP, the International Coalition of Tourism Partners, into the WTN, but there's going to be a name change to it, and that will be under the leadership of Professor Lipman, and all about sustainable tourism, and it will initially be sponsored, a good part of it will be sponsored by the government of Malta. So we will announce this on Monday, and of course all of you are invited to witness this. So I don't know if there's any more urgent issues or questions. If there are, please raise your hand now. And if they are not, I can only say aloha from this part of the world. In the Pacific, we're all together still in this mess with COVID, but we're trying to get out of it. And thank you for everyone who's part of our group and who's part to help the world through these difficult times. And I think it's great news that Nepal is now reopening for tourism. What better place in the world there is if you really want social distancing? Come on, I mean, Nepal is the place to go, and I hope a lot of you do. I'm certainly going to put it on my bucket list if I find a flight from Honolulu to Kathmandu, to go through countries where you don't have to get through everything difficult to get there. But it's all possible again. I think travel is going to relaunch. Even countries like Jamaica, for example, have been opened through the crisis. Actually, I heard the booking situation in Diana and Jamaica is quite good. And the same here in Hawaii. Actually, our tourism is booming. So hopefully this is all going to continue safely. So we can step by step relaunch the industry we all work in, and we all want it to be successful. Well, Panka again, and everyone from Nepal, namaste. Thank you very much, everyone, and we see you hopefully in 2 days on Sunday on our World Tourism event, recognizing the heroes in tourism, and hopefully you'll be part of us. Aloha. Thank you. And we're going to put everyone on there. Sorry. The gallery. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we can see each other here. All right. Good night. Good morning, wherever you are. Talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Aloha.